All right, so we're gonna just do a quick walk around on the outside of the vehicle. Overall, paint's in pretty good shape. You'll see a couple spots on like the plastics where there's some scratching, a little bit of chips, a couple dings, but nothing really major. You could probably get a lot of these out with PDR and like a buff if you're really particular on paint conditions. The harder thing on these, like when you have plastic scratches, you can't actually like buff those out because of the way the plastic is in the paint. But really good condition for the year. We do have some oxidation on the light there, and then you'll see like on the step aluminum here, some oxidation down there. Chrome and everything works really good. This does have a cargo rack on the top. It doesn't look like it was used very much. Not really any marks or anything up there. While I was doing the outside inspection, one thing I would just point out, probably do a rotate on this, just keep that best tread in the front. But overall, pretty good. All right, so we're gonna go through our engine bay really quickly. Overall, pretty good. Oil level, everything is nice and full, filled where it needs to be. A couple things we look at down here is just check on belts, hoses, make sure there's nothing that looks worn or leaking. All looks pretty good. The brown on this belt, just a sign over time that with age the rubber kind of gets hard and brittle. Just something to kind of keep a note. Like I was saying, battery's relatively new. And then another note, I always like to check on the brake fluid. It's a dark color on there, just something to look into in the future for service. You want to make sure that stays nice and cold. Once you start seeing this darkness, it's just a sign that it's absorbing moisture. That's what it's supposed to do. You just want to make sure it doesn't go too far. And then it's kind of hard to see, but right down in here, it's going to be the steering rack bushing down there. You can kind of see next to the boot there is some seepage where like the dirt is kind of collecting there. When we get the mirror down there, we'll get a better look at it. And then transmission, you can get a look on it. You check these when the vehicle's not running, make sure it's level. Fluid is full, nice where it needs to be. A little bit discolored, so just kind of check, make sure it's in with mileages. Could be towards the end with being at 140 on the car, so just check on that. Heater core hoses and everything back here all look really good. And we always look down here, kind of hard with all the hoses on this side, but you got your motor mount and everything, and then your frame rails here. We always look at these, make sure it doesn't look like any of those seams have been messed with or any of those bolts have been turned. And kind of makes it hard on this car. You can kind of see it down on this side, same story, all looks really well. And then air filter, these ones are bolted. We try not to disassemble people's cars when we're doing the reviews, so can't check on that. But overall, car has plenty of get up and go, drives pretty well. I'm gonna stop here. All right, so our undercarriage, we just use our mirror here to kind of go along the bottom of the vehicle. I always start off here, trying to look from the front to the back. What this does is lets me see if there's anything hanging down, sagging, anything like wet that's spraying back. All looks really good. Still has the factory belly pan under there even. Nice and dry. All looks really good there. We're gonna pause here and I'm gonna go to each corner for the lift points. All right, so this is your driver front corner. That is where they lift the vehicle. And then this is your body. So it's gonna be like a frame because it's a unibody, but it's part of the body, right? And then your subframe bolts to that. Now, down here, that's your rack. That's where we're seeing a little bit of that residue around that boot, where like the metal's kind of coated with dirt. Just keep an eye on that. And then this here, that little bit of corrosion, that's part of that step. So it's not like the body, it's the step outside the body. And then on the rear lift point, also in good shape. You can see your control arm, pushing looks good. It doesn't look cracked or anything like that. And then here is your fuel tank. I don't know if the video is picking it up, but I can hear that fuel pump whining away, which is good. You always like to be able to hear those things. It shows signs of strength. I'm gonna go straight from the back here. All right, so this does have the hitch on here and then your spare down here. Full size height, not overall size, but it's so that the all-wheel drive system doesn't get mad. And then your mufflers are in good shape. If you look past the mufflers and everything, that's your floor pan. Really good shape, no wrinkles or anything like that. All looks in good shape there. And then that is your rear subframe, and you can see some bushings in there. All looks really, really good. Doesn't look rusted or like it's been chipped away. And then that's for both sides. Forward here. Got some big mufflers on this thing to keep it quiet. It sounds really good. I was kind of flabbergasted by that. I'm gonna pause here and go to the side. Alright, so this is your passenger rear lift, your trailing arm, and the bushing there. This one does look like it's got a little bit of play going on in there. You can kind of see where it's moving around a bit. Something to just kind of keep an eye on. I didn't hear any sounds when it was hitting some bumps that I purposely was going over. And then we'll come up to the front. Also really good. Your subframe on this side, you can see your cat there. This is going to be your secondary cat. The other cats are right off the manifold on the engine. And look down in here. These wicks for the oil changes, which means they're getting some good oil changes on here. It's a good filter. Gonna stop there. Alright, so we are on to the interior. So I always start with the steering wheel. This does have voice and phone controls. This is going to be your information screen. So up in here, cruise control settings, and then your volume, channels, and source. It does have automatic lights, so you don't really have to worry about that. Our mileage is 138,964 at time of inspection. And then on here you have your map. It does have you agree to this every time. It is current. It did track me pretty well and knows all the street names that we were on during the drive. It does also have a backup camera on the vehicle looking at the sky because the lift gate's open. Heated seats on this. And then the 6-disc changer, they actually left a disc in there, so I was able to play with that. It all works as well. I'm going to pause here and then we're going to look from the outside in. Alright, so looking on the driver front door, window controls all work as they are intended. You do have your gas and power liftgate pop there, and then memory seats. And then you also have your child lock here. Window controls are here, and then this is a power telescoping tilt here. So in, out, up, down. Power seats both sides. This one does have lumbar. They are heated. Car does have all-weather mats. Carpets are in good shape. There are carpet mats in the far back that you'll see as well. Going on to this door card, in really good shape. Seats back here just don't look like they were used too much. This car does have a third row. They said they've only had it folded up a few times. I opened those up and they look as if they're brand new. They're pretty much hard, plushy leather still. I always pull on these, make sure they're still attached and secure. Sometimes these backs will pop off of these things, so I always like to look at that. And then your carpet here in really good shape. And then in your center here is some cup holders that pop out. Really nice, smooth. Fold that in. And then this does have controls back here for like heat and everything like that, as well as the seats. And then down here are going to be controls for this guy. So this does have media in here. It's an older unit, obviously being 2008, so it does use like RCAs, but you can get adapters for the RCAs these days, and I believe you can go through Bluetooth with something like that. Don't quote me on it, but pretty sure they got adapters for everything. And then your sunroof has tilt up and then it slides all the way back. Works as intended. No issues there. Alright, I'm gonna pause here. Alright, we're on the passenger side rear door. Same thing, door cord's in really good shape. No lower scratching or anything like that. Normally, like when you see third rows that are used actively, you'll see tons of scratching and stuff here. None of that. Seats are in really good shape. Pull this lever here, and then this slides up. And then since this has an all-weather mat, your latch is down there. And then that all pops up. Boom. And then passenger front door, last spot here. Really good shape on the door card. Seats are also in really good shape. You'll just see some like where the wrinkling was, just some marks from that, but that's pretty normal with time. Carpet in really good shape. Glove box has owner's manual and everything in it. And then this does have like little cubbies kind of all over. It's pretty nice. So that's gonna conclude our interior portion. All right, so we're gonna go through the trunk or lift gate or rear hatch, depends on how you like to call these. It is a power lift gate. Trims are all in pretty good shape. Plastics aren't really torn up or anything. Has an all-weather mat, and then like I was saying, it does have all the carpet mats. Under here you have your headphones and a roadside kit. All looks really good. And then in there is the jack. And then your spare should be like a false bottom in the bottom of that. So all looks really good there. And then this is your seat belts here for the third row. There is a power outlet back here. Cubbies, all works as intended. And I believe this even has like speakers over here. It's really cool. So, and then power liftgate was working. I think it's because I have all the doors open on the side, but everything checks out good in the back. All right, in this portion, it's going to be our code scan on the vehicle. First thing I always like to make note, we want to check here, just make sure our VIN matches what is on the vehicle, just so the computer is the one that goes with it. We do have some codes here on the car. Body was my bad. I didn't realize the car would have codes for having all the doors open while I was scanning it. So kind of disregard that one. We do have a couple permanent codes. A lot of these are lost communication or low voltage. And then there was one that was just like, it just stated a module, but it didn't say any faults or anything. And it just says permanent DTC. So these are something most likely a dealer would have to remove. Battery has been replaced in the last few years with permanent DTCs. Those are just stored in there until they're addressed through like a dealership scanner. Even if I went through and cleared these now, it's not even for sure that they would go away with permanent DTCs. None of them active, none of them current, and none of them saying history. And I didn't have any issues with any of the low voltage, like TBMS, no lights are on like that. And then this was the all-wheel drive system, had like an abnormal voltage, and then this was a voltage irregular, right? So most likely when the battery situation happened, it just kind of made the car a little upset. Nothing here to really concern me. We're gonna go to our monitors from here. All right, so these are your monitors as you drive around the vehicle. It's taking readings on all of these to make sure all the values are within the computer specifications. Green checks are all good, that's what we like to see. Usually when you see the black or the gray circles, it's incorporated into a separate module with newer cars, or it's just not something being monitored. Having a red X on the EVAP, it could just be the car might be sitting for an extended amount of time, like a week or so. We usually do about 10 miles or so and try to get that to reset. Sometimes it could take up to 20. But nothing really in drivability. We didn't have any kind of idling issues, so I'm not really sure I'm having any kind of EVAP issues. The system just didn't get to go through all of its checks. And we're going to keep moving on from here. All right, so this is going to be our conclusion section on here. After the road test, it drives really nice, very quiet, plenty of get up and go, very smooth, I would say. A lot of cab noise reduction inside. You can tell you're not hearing very much road noise. Transmission, everything kicks down just like you would expect. Brakes perform really well. Under hard braking, a little bit of pull to the right, so just kind of keep an eye. Maybe check your alignment when you get a rotate, kind of keep everything nice and smooth. You'll see there's some blemishes on the outside body, but overall in pretty good shape. Paint's in good shape. We don't have any rust or any kind of degradation in there from the chips and stuff. There are a few that I would get addressed. You got this one here, that fender over there that's kind of dented in. There's some oxidation on these steps, some dings. But overall really good shape. Everything inside does what it's supposed to, which is really cool. On these older cars, a lot of those buttons just stop working over time, so it's good to see all that. Nothing's really worn inside, so it's really nice to see that. It was basically family owned and just kind of road tripped around for getting to the store and stuff. Looks pretty good condition on there. It's going to be our conclusion.